Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Friday morning trading session. Friday the 13th, no less. So hopefully it's not going to be an unlucky day for us. All right. So the market's just opened up. Bear with me here a moment. I'm a little bit late setting up my charts. Looks like the market opened with a slight gap lower, so the overnight continuing to press lower. Yesterday's session kind of sideways for the most part. Sideways with a slight bearish flavor, but this morning definitely more bearish. Let's take a look here at the Raptor. We'll take a look at the overnight. All right, so we finished the day somewhere around here, around 45.80, give or take. Asian session relatively quiet. Most of the London session a little bit quiet. And then a few hours into it, all of a sudden the market starts to tail off, and this is where we are. So we're opening here, and it's going to look like there's a little bit of a gap above us. Yesterday, the market struggled to get into the gap, filled it later in the day, well, later in the morning, before declining again. So we'll see whether they do something similar today. So far, it looks like we've got a range from about here to here. All right, so let me clean this up a little bit. So long as the market is sideways, we'll try to avoid any bad signals. It may need a moment or two to get a little bit more structure here. It is Friday after all. I remember way back in grade school, I had a friend who was terribly afraid of Friday the 13th. One year he broke his arm on Friday the 13th, and after that, he wouldn't leave the house on Friday the 13th. I wonder if he's over that. His mom actually gave him permission to stay home. My mom never did that. Just because it was Friday the 13th. I was just curious how the trend line was following here, and it looks like the market's following the trend line pretty well. Sometimes trend lines are a good visual. The other thing I'd like to do is play what I call connect the dots. And what that does is it shows you very quickly how a trend starts to fall apart. So you know how normally we draw a downtrend line across the top like this? Well, that's useful, but it's also useful to connect the swing lows. And of course, the opposite would be true in an uptrending market. Because when you start connecting the swing lows, all of a sudden you'll see, oh, maybe this market is running out of steam to the downside. You see how obvious it becomes? And then you get that, and now you get this. So again, it becomes rather obvious that the market is really struggling to do something here. Yeah, it's starting to look very range bound. And if I had to guess, I would say they're going to try to get into that gap. But it's still early. It's only about 5 minutes into the session. This is a first micro-macro cross signal. I think they're at least going to challenge the top end of the trading range. So it's not the worst looking signal. Even so, I'd probably just put a onesie on it, and I'd probably enter above the high, and I'd probably try to cover below the low. All right, here, we'll throw it on. It's not the strongest looking of signals. You can see even to the top end of this trading range, we're barely going to make our profit objective. Let's see what's going on in the Geiger counter. Yeah, see how the sellers are pouring it on? Oh, well, maybe the buyers are trying to come back. No, the sellers are, they're really pretty even. No, I would give the nod here to the sellers. The buyers are swinging the dial over, but the sellers seem to be holding it. Hence the need for the very deep stop. Yeah, and there they go. So the Raptor giving us a hard edge bounce. And once more, this is all going to be very difficult trading just because we're in this sideways range. So if you see me taking a signal here, like we're going to look at taking this signal, this hard edge bounce signal, all we're really trying to do is test the bottom end of the trading range here. But so long as we're range bound, this is going to be very, very difficult trading. We'll see whether they give us an opportunity here. Come on, get down to break even. Test the bottom end. All right, so we've hit our break even trigger. And that looks like it might be shaping up into something. So now that we've broken out through the bottom end of the trading range, we're going to be looking for this retest. We'll see whether the market will allow us to ride that one out. Come on. Well, we may just be far enough back, you know that? we're holding our own. The Geiger counter not really swinging too hard one way or the other, and still tending to favor the bears ever so slightly. Oh, there's a little bit more buying pressure. We'll bring this over so we can see it a little easier. So I'm looking for these sustained periods when the dial is hard over one way or the other. If it goes hard over and holds, yeah, the buyer's getting a lot more aggressive here. If you wanted, you could roll your stop in right above here, or perhaps even punch out. We've got over $100 in open profit. Oh, that was encouraging there for a moment, but the buyer's tending to be a little bit more aggressive here. I'm going to let the Trailblazer continue to manage my position, but there'd be nothing wrong with popping out with an extra $100 here, especially since I think we're going to see the bottom, or the buyers really support these prices here now. Yeah, see how the wheel goes hard over like that? We're pretty much guaranteed a stop out. Oh wow, buyer, a little isolated island here in the selling. Ooh, there was some very strong selling going on there. More strong selling. Well, we might have lucked out here, folks. Ride out two swings. Okay, so here's the real challenge now. We're back at these lows. This is where we need to see the sellers pour it on. Come on, get over there. Get down there, come on. We need somebody to get in here and take this 45.60. If we see 45.60 tick, oh, we're close. There's 60 half, 60 quarter. There we go. Somebody just tapped 60. Quick little rejection there. What's happening is we're getting all these buyers buying right here, and their sell stops are right here, right? So if we can engage their sell stops, or their exit stops, they become sell stops, and that will help push the market lower. See here how the Geiger counter is getting a little bit lopsided? Not quite the follow through that we normally see. Usually when those orders start getting tagged, those exit orders, we see the market fall off a little bit sharper. That was a little bit subdued. So again, you know, there's never anything wrong with letting your pocketbook be your guide. We've got $200 in open profit, plus the initial trade. Come on, get down there. All right, so we're closing in on $300. I'm going to get more aggressive here now. We're getting close to my pain threshold. It's a fairly substantial move for a single contract to put in this kind of decline. So I'm just going to press the market a little bit here. I'm only going to give them this one bar. If this bar fails, then I may as well get out with profit. All right. So that worked out not too bad. 456 quarter on the second contract. Hooray for us. It looks as though we did have, I know we concentrated there on the Raptor, but it looks like we had comparable signals here if you were following the other tools. Very nice first micro-macro cross signal. If you missed that, macro pullback signal originated in the same place. 1, 2, 3, oh, almost had a 4-arrow consolidation. Did we get a 4-arrow here? 1, 2, 3, 4, and a green bar sell. Would have taken some heat on that, but you could have even got it a little bit earlier with the hawk. Now with Falcon, we get a trend change signal, and very clean, and into the primary support. So the market breaks primary support, comes back with a trend change signal. Actually, you got the proper trend change signal right here. A few minutes later, you got another trend change signal. Regardless of which one you took, it looked like that one had some decent follow through to it. And let's take a look now at the Eagle. Green bar sell, just into the market open, and that came right back with a hard edge bounce, and that also had good follow through. Let's see if that was tight enough that we could have taken 2 contracts. If we risk it above that high, no, still would have only been 1. Not bad though. Not a bad way to start the day. Gold is a little bit quiet this morning compared to what it had been yesterday. It was all over the map yesterday. And crude oil starting to tail off here a little bit. Let's take a look at crude oil this morning. So a first micro-macro cross here coinciding with the stock market open. And that also developed into a 4-arrow consolidation and a macro pullback. So prices really stuck here for a while. Now they're falling off. And let's see, crude's open was right here. Nothing too exciting, actually. That would have been the first signal as far as the hawk is concerned. And this is gold. And gold just kind of blah at the moment. We got a little bit of a trading range going on between here and here. Not quite sure what to make of that yet. You can see our filter on the eagle starting to break up quite a bit. So it was strong to the buy side, big chunk of selling, little chunk of buying, bigger chunk of selling, buyers, sellers, and the buyers evenly matched. You can tell here because the bars are all about the same width, and that accounts for the sideways action. Trade forecasters saying that we're going to enter trend mode in about another minute. So we'll see how long trend mode is forecast for. And what else is going on? Not very much right now. Price is kind of testing these lows, and I'm thinking we're going to see some support come in here now. We've got a test of the extreme. So now it's up to the buyers to show that they have control of the market, in which case we're going to make a new swing high. If the buyers fail, then we're going to see the market break the lows. But this is similar to what we saw earlier when we started the day, where the market was very, very sideways. So any trade that you're looking at taking, like we were looking at this first micro macro cross, it never tripped, but even so, I was looking to take it above the high, cover it as deep as I could, because we're lacking directionality. Or trend. All right, so here comes the Raptor. This is technically a soft edge buy now. We're at the top end of this trading range. We've had our test of the extreme. Now we do have the market in more of a downtrend today. So I'm going to show you this soft edge buy. I would take it above the high here, and I'm basing everything on the test of the extreme here. So once again, this is the buyers showing that they've got control of the market. And if they do have control of the market, they need to follow through on this, or the sellers are going to make a run here at the lows and spank the buyers. That's us. Now we should have a similar signal working here on the Falcon. The Falcon actually working on a proper trend change signal now. So the trend line has changed color. Here's the up. We're going to look for the down, and then we're going to look for that up. So this may all take a few minutes to unfold. The hawk now into yellow bars. We're starting to make that new swing high. I'd like to get up there a little bit higher just to make it a very pronounced swing high. Okay, so here comes the hawk now with our first micro-macro cross if you're following the hawk. And now this is a similar situation. The market is struggling for control. The buyers and the sellers, they're really fighting it out here. So it would be to your advantage, I think, to run a slightly deeper stop, because the market has already paid off to the downside today. Very often, if I get a winning trade in one direction, I'm going to stay with that direction for the day. So I would favor the sellers today over the buyers. But hey, it's one of the perks of being a trading room moderator. I can show you some of this sort of stuff. But just bear in mind, this is technically counter trend, looking to buy the market up. That's why I said we need the deep stop. We need to give the market a little bit of room here. If it's going to go higher, I don't think it's going to bolt higher. Nice little chunk of buying here on the Geiger counter. Looks like the sellers absorbed it though. Oh, there we go. The wheel's hard over now. Oh, come on, baby. Oh, good morning, Jim. Jim giving us some advanced decline numbers here. So we're looking at just over 1,000 on the buy and about 1,700 on the sell. So on the surface, that's a little bit more bearish. Looking for the buyers to get some control here. Okay, the hawk trade into yellow bars, so we'll cancel that. The Falcon working on its retrace now. So it's got the up portion. Here comes the down. Big push now required from the buyers. The hawk now into, I was going to say into a macro pullback, but it's back into yellow bars. So with the hawk, here we got a red bar buy opportunity. And it's not that I'm keen to buy. Oh, look at that slip. It slipped us there, what, about 4 ticks? That's crazy. So they slipped us so bad there that What was that about? Yeah, I was going to say that was only about 5 ticks. The Falcon signal spoiled a little bit by this trend line color change. Now you can choose to ignore that. Sometimes if it goes out of sync for just a bar, it's not a big deal. We still have structure here, price-wise, right? We have the test of the extreme. We have the higher support, pardon me, higher resistance. When we break resistance like this, we know we can expect 2 moves in the direction of the breakout. We don't always know how strong the moves will be, but we know there's going to be 2 moves. Likewise, when you break a support area. So we have support down here. We break. Here's move number 1, and then here's move number 2. Here we're going to hold our stops back here a little bit. Oh, actually a double pullback signal. This is the problem too with doing counter trend trades. People sometimes ask me, Eric, why don't you do counter trend trades? Well, if I take a counter trend trade, then I'm stuck not being able to take the with trend trade. Right? So I was showing you here the soft edge buy, explaining the properties of it, but then it developed into a double pullback. I would have much rather tried to sell that double pullback. Why? Well, we know a double pullback is a high probability signal. We also know the market's in a downtrend. It's been paying off to the downside, and therefore, we should be looking for selling opportunities and be suspicious of buying opportunities. But like I said, I guess it's the perk of being a trading room moderator. I can show you stuff like that. And why some things don't work, which is, I suppose, almost as important as why things do work. Well, Jim's trying to go long on the YM. We'll bring this over here in a second so you can see. Jim went long at 24 and he's taking a little bit of heat on his trade. So now that they've broken the lows, so Jim was looking to buy, let's see, he bought 24. Yeah. Yeah, I'm afraid they're in a bit of a downtrend today. I'm not sure I'd be hanging on that one for too long. Watch your Geiger counter if you have it. See, they're hard over here to the sell side. I think we're going to see a little pop lower. Sorry to say. Oh, first micro macro cross signal. I was concentrating so much on the Raptor, I missed the other one. A little bit aggressive here, but gold coming in with a trend change signal off of our primary support line. And it does look as though this little bit of a retracement, we got a chance for a second push on the entry. If I hurry, nope, it went a little bit too far on me. Darn it. Well, here, I'll see if I can catch it on a limit still. If it's going to reach back a little bit. Now, I don't usually do this. A lot of times if the market goes without me, okay, it goes without me. I'll look for the next signal. But this is a trend change signal. Gold floundering a little bit. You can see we've got a fairly large range. A retest of the median line certainly seems like it would be in order. So there's the gold bulls trying to push the market up a bit. We'll see where they go with that. And now here's the NQ bears still turning it on. Yeah, sorry I missed that second opportunity to get short. Very clean signal there on the Hawk and the Falcon and the Raptor. I won't do that again, folks. I won't show you the counter trend signal because, like I said, that blocks us from taking the with trend signal, especially if we have a trade that's already, showing some evidence of a trend. Now, as the market gets overextended and our cloud starts to get quite a bit of depth to it, that's going to show a market that's oversold and can anticipate a little bit of a retracement. But remember the price structure. We always need to see that test to the extreme before we get too cute. Don't want to waste your hard-earned profits. All right. So retailers warming up for for Black Friday. I guess that's next week, isn't it? What day is today? No, the 13th. Oh, shoot. No wonder I can't see it on my calendar. I still have October up. Well done, Mark. Mark says the market looks to be in a downward bias. I would certainly agree with that. He says, I've taken two Falcon trend change signals now for a 20-tick profit on each. My strategy of looking at the NQ, YM, and ES side by side on the Falcon has been paying off nicely. Well done. Well, there's a lot to be said for that, and I think I've shared with you guys about Marsh Jones. The late Marsh Jones had a very simple strategy of trading where he would watch the YM and the NQ, and when those went in sync and he saw a burst in the sales, he actually never really watched the chart, he would just watch the time of sales. He would throw an order in on the E-mini. So there's a lot to be said when all three are in sync. I agree, Mark. I think that would make the market a little bit more receptive. I was just scanning my emails for reasons of the market might be tailing off, and it looks like most commentators are blaming retail sales, which is why I made my Black Friday comment. And oh, that's the 26th. So yeah, not next week, the week after. No doubt you're getting pummeled with commercials already. There's a lot of American traditions that have drifted north of the border. Some of them, like Thanksgiving, really good. Some of them, like Black Friday, not so good. Hey, don't get me wrong. I love a sale as much as the next guy, but I'm not lining up for an hour to save $5 on an iPhone or something stupid. Something that I probably don't need anyway. Okay, gold trade laboring a little. Not to get too excited about it just yet. We need to take out this high. So we're printing a trendline touch signal. If we see the market print 1083 or even 1082.50, we should be all right. But that's going to be the big struggle. You can see by the width of some of these bars, there's a lot of interest around this particular price zone. But I'm hoping that the primary support's going to hold. As we get closer to the median line, I'll start adjusting my stops a little bit, even prior to the break-even trigger. So for you Falcon traders, let's take a look at the trend change signals that Mark took. So this would have been, there's the market open. So here's the first trend change signal that he took. Trend lines go out of sync. Here's the second trend change signal that he took. And very, very nice follow through on that. I get people sometimes asking too, because I admit sometimes I have a tendency to just focus on one tool. I'll go to the hawk a lot, but that's just because the hawk is the scalper. It's by its nature, it's going to produce more signals. And people wonder, well, I bought the eagle. You never showed the eagle. Is there something wrong with the eagle? No, there's nothing wrong with the eagle. Just bear in mind, though, that if you are a single bird owner, Um, these tools are not interchangeable. You know, like the Eagle has been designed to pick up trends. And we're currently in trend mode and for about another 10 minutes, according to the trade forecaster. So you can see when a trend develops, the Eagle is your tool for sure. And we had a very good trend develop this morning. But if there's no trend, let's go back here a couple of days. If there's no trend, well, you're going to be hard pressed for a signal. So at times like this, yeah, we're going to be focusing more on the hawk, the scalper, and perhaps even the raptor. All right, so it looks like support is finally starting to come into the market. Kind of, sort of. We're getting one bar of support here on the Raptor and the Falcon, a couple of bars ticking higher on the Hawk, and the Eagle almost putting in a support bar. I anticipate a little bit of a test of the extreme here. This test of the extreme is, for you Raptor traders, is shaping up a little bit faster and a little bit more characteristic for that soft edge buy. You see this soft edge buy that we did back here, the test of the extreme was a little bit more pronounced, but typically they develop very quick, like this one. Up for a couple bars, down for a couple bars, and then it tries to shoot higher. And according to the Geiger counter, I'm almost thinking the buyers are going to do just that. You see how the wheel is hard over? If I don't move my mouse, oh, maybe not. One thing I like about my little self-imposed rule about staying with the side that's paying off is it takes a lot of pressure off. Or I find it takes some pressure off because no longer am I looking too closely at buy signals, right? If I have a market that's in a downtrend that's paying off to the short side, I don't need to worry so much. Okay, so I'm getting a buy signal. I can pretty much disregard it. Well, maybe not totally disregard it, but you know what I mean. So Jim's saying, Eric, can you show me the YM, please? Absolutely, James. There you go. So the Geiger counter pretty even here. The seller's holding the dial over a little bit. There's a little bit of buying pressure. If we can see the buyers pull it over here and just hold it, just like that. Let's see if I don't move my mouse. If we produce a soft edge buy here, I'll demonstrate it for you. And in fact, I will get this all set. So we'll have an order waiting. Yeah, Jim, you're right. Jim says it's a pretty big span here on the cloud, so we are looking a little bit oversold, I would think. A lot of width on this candle here, kind of confirming some buying support. But don't forget, the market very much in a downtrend. If you showed this to an 8-year-old and asked him, is this up or down or sideways? I'm pretty sure the 8-year-old would tell you it's down. I'm smarter than most 8-year-olds, and I'm thinking he would say down. All right, so somewhere through here we should anticipate a buy signal. Oh, that's looking fairly promising. The buyer's pulling the wheel over here, holding it. The seller's not giving it up. Look at that. Okay, so I just heard an audio on the NQ Raptor where we've got a long signal. We don't have the signal printing just yet on the YM. Ooh, that wheel is hard over. So if we shoot a trend line across here, lots of buying going on now. Sellers fairly absent. Well, I said sellers were fairly absent, and yet the wheels spun hard over here and held. So, not developing into what I quite anticipated. We're going to put that on the shelf here for the moment. Yeah, Jim says the YM had a negative, or I guess not the YM, but the New York Stock Exchange posted another -1,000 on the tick, and that's fairly bullish. He's also watching the VIX and the DAX, both of which are looking a little bit more bullish also. Sometimes it's hard to leave your bias. I've had days like that too, though, where I'm looking at the market and I'm thinking, it's got to rally today. It's got to rally. And the whole time the day is heading lower. And other times where vice versa, I'm thinking the market's got to come down. It's got to retrace. And the whole time it's heading higher. It's difficult to do, but you're always better off trying to clear your head and just trade what's on the chart. Now, having said all that, it does look like we're getting a buy signal here. We got a late filter entry signal here on the Falcon, and it's run away on me a little bit here. I'm going to throw again, I don't do this very often, but I'm going to throw a limit order in here, try to simulate it if we can get it on a little bit of a retrace. And this is also counter trend. You need to respect these counter trend signals because, well, first off, they're going to get you into a trade. You're not going to be able to take a with trend signal when you get it. And I think I'm just going to be too late on that. And they are counter trend, right? All the momentum today has been short. It's not to say there isn't going to be some profit taking or something going on here. All right, I'm going to scrub the order. We'd be at a break even right now, and you can see prices just hovering below our profit target. I do believe we may have seen the move of the day, though, folks. For Friday, that was a pretty ambitious move to the downside. Probably sparked in part by traders feeling a little bit more comfortable being flat going into the weekend. Pardon me. Okay, so now we have a first micro macro cross. Now I'm going to show you, we're going to set this up to take the first micro macro cross signal, which we know to be a high probability signal, but I'm going to show you something here. See how this market is very much in a downtrend. See how this looks a little bit like a bear flag. So even though it's a high probability signal, you always want to take these things in context. Try not to, disregard what else is going on the chart. Come on. So now we're getting a little bit of support here off of these lows. And it is 7:30, so we might get a reversal, 10:30 in the east. That's typically a time where we see the market reverse against the dominant trend if there has been a trend. I think we can certainly say there's been a trend this morning. Come on, trend line, you gotta hold. Yeah, you see once again, I'm leaving myself in a place where I can't take the with trend signal. If this comes back now and gives me a first micro cross lower, I'm stuck. And here it is right there. See, so now I could say, well, okay, first micro cross lower, I'll probably set it up like something like that. I could adjust my trade a little bit. Well, actually, here I better stop being so cute and do something about managing my trade here. So what I've done is I've gone to the more aggressive bar high-low strategy, the idea being that if the buyers fail at this point, which they have, then I might as well get out at 45.34. And you can see that, very often counter trend signals, not only do they get you in on the wrong side of the trade, but they'll get you into a sideways moving market. Ooh, a nice little late filter entry signal here on the Falcon, which I'm a little bit tardy for. And a possible soft edge bounce here on the Eagle. Now, the nice thing about the Eagle trade is I would take it below the low. I'd offer up a couple of ticks, take it below the low, cover it. Ooh, shoot. Cover it to the hard edge. It's kind of at my limit. All right, are they going to break or are they going to hold? Well, they're going to try to press lower. Lots and lots of activity here. This 45.30 area, very, very strong price zone. And the trend is, we've been trending this way all morning. So it's important to remember too that a trend does not continue indefinitely. There's going to be pauses, there's going to be pullbacks. Yeah, like Tony says, one good thing about a slow market, you can get your knitting done. That's joking aside, it's good to have something to do so you don't get too bored waiting for the market. Strum a guitar, have a puzzle book or something nearby. The Hawk producing a first micro macro cross scalp that actually had enough follow through to it, I believe, to find its profit objective. Yes, it did. Now we're still struggling with these lows, and I think the market's going to start moving sideways. That's just how it's starting to look to me. Getting a lot of volume here. Again, this whole 45.30 area, you can see getting a lot of market participation. If the sellers swing this in our favor, we could be okay. Jim says the bank index is strengthening a bit, but the advanced decline is falling off. 700 on the buy, 2100 on the sell. So a lot of volume going through this region right now. Come on. Yeah, I think we're going to see a little bit of sideways action going on here. The sellers should try to step in here one more time. And when they do, I think I'm going to press the trade. Although my stop's in a good spot, 45.45. If they fail there, chances are pretty good that we're going to see a rally. And not a, let's get crazy rally, but maybe a little bit of profit taking. get ready with the bar high-low. And what's my Geiger counter doing? The buyer's looking a little stronger. Oops, seller showed up there for a moment. No, the buyer's going to put in a bit of a rally here. You see how hard that Geiger counter's moved over? Pardon me. Advanced decline getting a little stronger. Got almost 900 on the buy and 1900 on the sell. All right, seller's trying to press, and come on, give me just that one bar. Be nice. Okay, I'm manually going to pull it in here. Just watching the Geiger counter here for a moment. So there's a little bit of selling. Oh, buyer's coming right back. No, it does appear to me as though the buyers are digging in, and we could see a little bit of a push higher. Of course, by me saying that, the market will fall off now. Doesn't that seem like it's always the way? Okay, I can go with my bar high-low strategy now. And we'll enable that. There we go. Okay, so the seller's showing me that this is where they're prepared to defend. If I get one more, 1.5 bars lower still, I can probably force the trade to break even. In fact, until we do get to break even, I'll just keep it 1 bar back. So it's put up or shut up time for the sellers. And well, it did well to eliminate much of that initial risk. Oh, well, they did tap me, but it would have been for a relatively small lost $10 or $20. Yeah, they do seem to be fairly content just to meander. So again, we're producing signals here on the Hawk. I think is showing it most clearly. We're interjecting a bunch of yellow bars. Notice when the market was trending, very few yellow bars. Did get a couple through here during a consolidation, but for the most part, yellow bars weren't really a problem. So here we're getting yellow bars again. This tells us that we're range bound. And the market needs to get outside of this range. We're working a first micro macro cross lower. If you're considering taking this, you do have an opportunity for a second push on the entry now, which means that we've let the signal engage. We've seen how far they're prepared to go. If we're going to sell it, we can pick it up on some renewed downside momentum. Otherwise, we'll just let the market retrace, probably retest the upper end of the trading range. Same thing with this first micro macro cross higher. Oh, actually it was never developed into a first micro macro cross. The macro line was still out of sync, but pretending for a moment that it did, you wouldn't necessarily want to take it right on the hash mark. You could let it engage and then look to take the second push to get that renewed momentum. Or you could even just enter above that swing high. This little pivot right there. Because, of course, it's no fun being in a sideways market. And I almost think that's where we find ourselves at the moment. Oh, we're almost to the top of the hour. I think what we'll do is maybe close up the room a little bit early. Well, it's just that I honestly think we're going to sit here for the rest of the session and just watch the market trickle sideways. A little bit of a profit-taking rally would not be out of the question. So if you're going to continue to trade, I would think that so long as the market keeps putting in a bottom, we're going to see the sellers eventually give up, the buyers come back and try to press the market. In fact, if the Raptor produces another signal up here, or any of the tools for that matter, we might see a retracement, maybe even as high as 45.60. That would be rather substantial. $45.40 is the hard edge. Where's our primary support? $45.66. And we're kind of skewered by the secondary support line right now. Keep bouncing off of the top of it. 45.14, not an unreasonable target. It's just we've come down so far already. This is a big day for the NASDAQ. This is a pretty substantial decline. Like I said, the markets aren't going to free fall. Well, rarely do they free fall indefinitely. All right, I just got another long signal here on the Raptor. We'll finish off the session here with this trade. It's a nice tight little formation because we can cover below the swing low. But, you know, trading has really dried up here. Look, we got a big swing lower, big swing higher, and very little follow through either way for the most part. So here we are back at the top end of this trading range, and you can see the dial on the Geiger counter starting to swing lower as the sellers start to pile on. A move above this high, so 45.36. We need to see somebody get in there. And then that should give us a little bit of a pop to the upside. All right, so we'll button up the room on that note. Have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Our grandson's coming up this weekend, so you know I'm going to be run off my feet by Monday morning. But it'll be loads of fun to have them. All right, you guys, we'll catch you again on Monday. Talk to you then. Bye for now.